What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 15 of Sales Stories in Real Life. I'm your host, Alex Bruski, and this is the show where professional salespeople share their stories on times that they were sold and they were in the buyer's seat. Today, we've got the platform specialist at Salesforce, Matt Binder. He is a Heroku Security Compliance AE. Generally speaking, working with your CISO, CIO, and CTO persona. Matt, welcome to the show. I hear you had a really interesting experience during your digital nomad travels overseas doing some shopping. What happened there?
Yeah, Alex, thanks so much for having me, man. Really love the concept of this. Love that we're flipping the script and not just two salespeople talking about selling, where I'm talking about when the roles were reversed. So definitely excited about the concept. And yeah, when you asked me to recall a time that I had been sold, it was obvious. I was in Istanbul. So I was in Istanbul, and if you've never been to Turkey, Istanbul specifically definitely has a reputation for they can be some tough sells. That you, especially when you look like me and you're obviously a foreigner, even just walking through those streets, you're going to get a lot of folks courting you into shops, and definitely a hard close kind of culture there in the retail space. So I was just, I was a little bit earlier there at the time zone. So I was just walking around before my Eastern time zone workday started. And I walked into a leather shop just looking around and had a very interesting experience there, where I was just, doing what tourists do, just kind of moseying around a shop, and until the shopkeeper walks up to me and says, hey, how can I help you today? And, it's the standard kind of one-liner you would get in a store. And I said, hey, man, I'm just looking, not looking for anything particular. And he looks at me and he says, well, you're just looking and I'm just selling. So how can I help you buy something today? And I was just like, wow, I was just really taken aback. I had never been approached so directly by anyone, be it overseas, in the US, anywhere else. And I kind of I just appreciated the experience so much, even though I wasn't really, in the market for leather. I made sure that I walked out of there with a wallet and had something to remember the experience, and just appreciated the directness that he approached me with.
I mean, the how can I help you is the classic, like, right, you're walking around the farmer's market, you're in Costco and you're by the TVs, and it's just the classic, no, I'm good, right? You almost say it without even thinking it. So, like, take us through that moment when you get that same old question and you're probably not even paying attention, right? Oh, no, I'm good, right? Like, I just want to browse on my own. And then all of a sudden he hits you with that crazy pattern interrupt, right? Like, what's going on mentally there?
Definitely a pattern interrupt. And I think that a lot of folks, like, in sales, or in this case in retail, would avoid being that direct because it would seem salesy to say, I want to sell you. But to me, it was the opposite of salesy. To me, it was, as opposed to coming in, trying to be my friend, where are you from, trying to, quote unquote, build rapport as in, small talk. He was just really explicit about his intentions. And I think that we, although most of us are not shopkeepers in leather stores, I think we have a lot to learn from that guy about just being clear about our intentions. And that doesn't make you opportunistic. That doesn't make you, predatory. If anything, it makes you the opposite.
And that's so funny because, let's say, typical knowledge, right, would make you think, oh, let me build some rapport first, right? To your point, oh, where are you visiting from, right? What'd you like about Turkey? Like, no, hey, let's get to the point. So, I mean, let's just say that someone approached you like that, and it was the same thing. Hey, can I help you with something? No, I'm good. Oh, well, where are you visiting from, right? Like, would that have changed the interaction totally for you? Like, do you think there was any other way that, you could have had the reaction that you did without him being so just direct and radically transparent?
I think the way that he said it was really just like he said it funny. I think if he said it kind of like in a snarky or an aggressive tone, I could have just been like, "Whoa, man! Like I'm just in your store looking around." But he said it in a way that was like cheeky enough that it got me to laugh, but also like he was serious. Like, had he gone in and, where are you from, this and that, what have you enjoyed about Turkey so far? Eventually, he would have had to, move the curtain and being like, okay, like, let's get down to business. He got right down to it. Could he have been as direct in another way? I'm not sure. He was the only person that gave me that sort of experience anywhere, whether it's home in the US, or I'm from, or in any of my travels, or I've been to a lot of, markets and town squares. It was very memorable, especially as somebody who is it's really my job to start and finish conversations. It was definitely very memorable, and felt like I learned a lot from it.
That's a really good place to piggyback too, because I'm really curious on your perspective on this, Matt. You spend time with hundreds of AEs, right, with your role, and at Salesforce, right? No other. So like for a B2B seller that's listening right now, like what can they take away from this, right? Like how can they use this story to get better at their job on a daily basis?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't suggest being as direct as he was. Like, it's not B2B SaaS. I think the B2B SaaS equivalent of, you're just looking, I'm just selling, how do we make this work, is just making a really direct mutual plan. I think that I think a lot of AEs just tried to shy away from what we're doing here. And I think that they kind of, I've been convinced that sales is a dirty word, and that they're convinced that just because I'm here to sell you something means that I don't have your best interest in mind, or I'm not looking out for you, or I'm not going to tell you the truth, or I'm not just going to, treat you like a person looking to solve a problem. I think that a lot of it starts with the qualification, right? Like, for example, like I think that it really re-emphasized like how I build champions. And whether that champion is also a decision maker. By champion, I mean just the person who's ultimately responsible for the project that we're working on together. So it's just about being really clear with them. Like, for an example, I'm not going, if any of my customers are listening to this and we worked on a project together, it's because you told me that what I have to offer is going to help you drastically. I really put you on the spot. I made you say, I asked you straight up, like, hey, we did the discovery call. I learned a little bit of background. We showed you the demo. Now it's to the point where, are we working on this together, or should we just go our separate ways? No hard feelings. And then not only are we working on this together, but what degree are you, like, how much do you want this? Like, what degree are you looking to position this internally? Are you going to make sure that I have the right information that I need to, help you sell this? Like, for example, if I'm talking to say a VP of technology, they're not the person, they're not going to call me up to debug their code for them because I'm not a programmer. Like, why should they sell my software for me? I'm a software salesperson. So if we've really been aligned on this is going to solve a problem that you have, we're going to work together. And you can tell me, no, this is, I'll even call it out. Like, if I get the sense that they're going to be more of a, a cheerleader than a champion, I will call that out and say, hey, well, it seems like this is going to be more transactional. Like, it seems like this is going to be more, I send you the quote and you bring it upstairs and I'm not going to be involved. And that is what it is. And that doesn't mean it's not going to close. That doesn't mean you're not a great person or I'm going to, treat you poorly, but that just is the nature of the beast.
I love that. And pre-call, we were chatting a little bit too, and you had used the language of like, are we working on a project, right? Or are we working on a partnership together, right? Like it takes two to tango, in other words. Anything maybe you want to expand on that front?
Yeah. So I will flat out ask customers, like, is this a project that we're working on together? Or is this going to be more of a transaction? If this is a project that you're working on together and you are my champion, you're not my cheerleader, you're going to give me the information I need to give you the information you need. You're going to bring the right folks on the call. I'm going to understand the office politics. I'm going to understand like the grim reapers that killed software deals for you in the past, be it a person, a policy, a budget, whatever. If you are really my champion, we are no longer in this, vendor prospect mode. We are on the same side of the desk. We're working together to make sure that we have all our bases covered when we position this internally. And if you're not willing to do that with me, that doesn't mean I'm just going to write you off completely. I'm still going to make sure you have a good experience with me and Salesforce and you have all your questions answered and all your ducks in a row. But you're going to have a much better experience working with me if you're transparent about your needs. That transparency is going to go both ways. And we just treat it like a project as opposed to a deal cycle, where it's just like that inherent underlining sort of like ping pong game.
I mean, putting myself in the shoes of your buyers, like that's almost your Turkish leather salesperson line, right? Like, hey, is this transactional, right? Am I just giving you a quote and are you taking it over and then you're going to get back to me in a few days and tell me yes or no? Or is this a genuine partnership, right? Where we're both putting effort, we're both working on this together, right? To your point, we're on the same side of the table as each other. So that's a really, really great way to distinguish it. I mean, when you throw that out in a conversation, typically, like what kind of sense do you get from the buyer, right? After you're that direct with them, like, do you find that people back off? Do you find that they lean in? Like, what type of experiences have you had there?
I think I do well making sure they know that there's no wrong answer to the question. That they it's like, hey, if this is something that you really care about, is this going to affect your job? Is this going to make you look great in front of your boss and your leadership? Will the consequences to not having this potentially make you look bad in front of your boss and your leadership? I think I make it clear that it's okay to tell me what degree of bought in you are to this project. And sometimes I think sometimes they have the same reaction that I had in another story. And sometimes they'll be like, what? What are you saying? Like, are you really just asking me, like, are you proposing to me as like to work on this cycle together? And sometimes they do get a little bit aloof and a little bit weirded out by it. And that is, and they would have been either way. At that point, I've just identified them as more of a champion than a cheerleader. They're the person who's going to get the quote and they're going to bring the quote to the right people. And I'll probably never know what those internal conversations are like. And again, that's fine. Like for example, I like to go on like Glassdoor for like a bigger deal and like get a feel of like, are people happy at this company? Would people feel comfortable talking to their managers about something? Is this like a culture where everyone seems to get along, or is this like seem like a very kind of sterile political culture? And for example, I would definitely give that more like that 3 stars on Glassdoor kind of political culture person a lot more leeway when it comes to multi-threading than I would, oh, we're all a big family here type of vibe in a company.
That's an awesome little tidbit that you threw in there at the end, especially for the folks that are working on enterprise size deals. That's a great way to kind of understand the inner workings of an organization from the outside. I love that, Matt. I think at this point that is a perfect spot to cut it here because there is a lot of value to dive into here. So thanks so much for hopping on. I know that you're obviously very busy, not only with working deals, but you're constantly traveling. So why don't you plug something with the audience here before we hop?
Sure, yeah. If you were able to decipher my ramblings today, I definitely hope you got a lot out of it for anyone who's listening. And I'm not really much to plug. I'm definitely Salesforce keeps me busy. There's nothing I'm working on independently right now. But really, I just love connecting with like-minded people on LinkedIn. I love the sales community. I would say if I could describe my ideal connections and folks to, do networking calls with, it's just folks who want to do things unconventionally and want to zig where other folks zag and, kind of see like the herd mentality of, LinkedIn sales tips, for example, is something to divert from. Just folks who want to build it within themselves to do things differently and not be the people who follow trends, but the people who create them. Those are the folks that I'm looking for. And beyond that, yeah, nothing to plug. Just appreciate the time and appreciate you as always. And thanks for having me, Alex.
Hell yeah. Connect with Matt on LinkedIn. He has been in the LinkedIn sales community for quite a while. So a lot of you may know him already. If you don't, make sure you connect with him, follow him. He's also a digital nomad. You're living the dream, man. So it's great to chat with you here. I know that the listeners will get a lot out of this. We will see you all next week.
Appreciate it again.